Uh, Hello and welcome to the Humanities Centre for this very special event, which is the 2025 Minerva lecture. This lecture series was inaugurated, I think, in 2021, and its purpose is to bring back to campus retired and emeritus faculty to talk about their work and their continuing reflections on education and the life of the mind. The title chosen for this series, the Minerva series, is of course a reference to Hegel's remark in The Philosophy of Right. You can see Tom smiling at this. The owl of Minerva takes its flight only with the coming of dusk. And the lecture series, therefore, aims to highlight the understanding that comes at the close of a university career, the understanding that can only be the result of decades of experience in the realm of higher education and in the realm of thought. Lecturers in this ongoing series have included Jim Gump from the History Department, Fred Robinson from English, Florence Gilman from Theology and Religious Studies, and last year, Patrick Hurley from the Department of Philosophy. And it's truly a delight to welcome back to our campus one of the most beloved members of USD's faculty, Dr. Judith Liu. And to introduce her this evening, we are also lucky to have with us a colleague of Judy's from the Department of Sociology, our dear, dear friend, Dr. Tom Reifert.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. As I reflect on Dr. Judith Liu, or Judy as we call her, I've known her for some 20 years as a colleague, mentor, and teacher scholar, but more than that, an engaged teacher scholar, a loyal friend and an invaluable advisor. But when I think about Judy, it's above all the character of Judy that I think about, and her gift and unparalleled abilities in the art of friendship, beyond the depth of any word's language to communicate, that most stands out to me. And then I realized that I've only seen a small amount of the work that Judy's done and the relationships she's forged. Of course, anyone who has walked with Judy across campus knows the inestimable time factor due to the inestimable hug factor, because Judy seems to know and love just about everyone, and everybody knows and loves her in return. So any walk across campus will be delayed by an unspecified amount of time. And I've lost count of how many times she chaired the sociology department and how many other departments she came to chair, because at some point I lost count at about a half a dozen, though I did recommend that she write her memoir and it be called Musical Chairs. But I still, though I couldn't remember and lost count of how many departments she chairs, I never forgot her fortitude and determination and the mark that she has made. It just so happens that this is the week when I've talking to my students in my law and social justice class about Tolstoy's The Death of Ivan Ilyich. And luckily, Judy is still very much alive, but for those who know the story, knows that Tolstoy reflected on this question of, and something that Ivan Ilyich reflected on during his illness, and he came to realize at the very end of his life that being highly regarded by all the highly placed people does not suffice to assure one is living a good life, as opposed to merely living the so-called good life. That's a realization that Judy must have come to a long time ago, or perhaps she was born with it. We don't know. But I do have to reflect as a sociologist and somebody who's interested in philosophy of Hegel the ornithologist in a comical, half-serious piece on Hegel as ornithologist in the Journal of Ornithology. And after a bit of sleuthing, they decide that the owl of Minerva is actually what they call the little owl. And they say that the birds of the Western Palearctic note that is particularly addicted to the use of conspicuous perches as lookouts, as well as to frequent brief low flights in daylight in the open. It is further described as frequently abroad by day. It hunts chiefly at dusk and early morning, but sometimes in broad daylight, especially when feeding young. One of the things that characterizes Judy's career is her attention with building departments and organizations in a university where people are handed the torch, and understanding the university and all human relationships or system of relationships. Judy has had many perches and many lookouts, and we all little owls are the wiser for her presence and her grace. Thank
you. Wow. Thank you for that incredible introduction. And let me reassure you that you are actually in the right place. This is, as Brian and both Tom have mentioned, this is the Minerva Illume series, but it's also really known as the lecture by the spirits of USD faculty past. And those of you who have seen this, I no longer resemble that picture at all. So in case you didn't recognize me, that was me then, or I'm not even sure if that was ever me, but it only goes to show you that retirement does actually age you. My journey begins with my parents coming to the United States in 1948. My parents were both educated. My mother graduated from an American Episcopalian missionary school in Wuchang, China, and my father graduated with a bachelor's and a PhD in Germany following World War I. At a recent event, when I was talking with a student who wanted to know about some advice about what she should be doing after she graduated, she asked me, "Did you know what you wanted to do when you graduated?" And upon reflection, I have to say I did. Education was highly valued by my parents. And as a child, I used to play at being a teacher, which is considered to be an honorable profession for the Chinese. In my many years in the educational system, I have learned numerous lessons from my own education, teaching at USD, working with students, and being involved with the local Linda Vista community. My graduate education, here we go. My graduate education at UCSD provided me with basic tools, how to conduct research, fact-checking, how to stay focused, and most importantly, it provided my initial teaching experiences. It also helped me develop a navigation system that would serve me throughout my academic career. As any academic in this room knows, that graduate school can be a proving ground and an environment that can be fraught with fear, anxiety, and stress, because so much of our future is dependent upon some standard of academic success. Graduate students compete for scarce resources, scholarships, funding, teaching positions, and even office space, not unlike what we encounter in our academic lives as well. But graduate school is also a space where friendships and camaraderie evolve. I learned among my cohort who would help me succeed and the professors with whom I could develop a mentor-mentee relationships that would last a lifetime. Surveying the landscape, I began to develop a radar for ascertaining who to go to, who to go through, and who to go around. This skill was invaluable as I progressed through my academic career. During graduate school, I was a Rhodes Scholar, where I literally drove to local colleges and universities around San Diego. Fortunately for me, one of them was USD, where I managed to obtain a tenure track position. At USD, I was lucky enough to be surrounded by colleagues both inside and outside my department who shared a passion for teaching, who shared advice and techniques on how to handle difficult conversations and situations, and who passed along their best teaching practices and crucial survival skills. Gaining mentors and allies was crucial to my thriving at USD. From students, I learned that creating a vibrant learning environment that could cultivate their curiosity and their thirst for knowledge required participating with them. That education was a two-way street for both professors and for students. As they learned from me, I also learned from them. They taught me what worked and what didn't work. Adapting to the encounters with course materials meant that my courses necessarily had to change semester by semester. As such, students provided endless opportunities for engaging discussions, delightful and frustrating humor, and great stories. Building a relationship based on genuine trust and respect is the essential foundation for learning. If students believe you genuinely care for them and you gain their trust, there is nothing they won't do for you. Providing knowledge and teaching essential skills are not enough to make course materials meaningful. Students must also be able to apply that knowledge and skills in actual practice. I wanted students to become what my Mulvaney Center colleague John Loggins refers to as pracademics. That ability to apply what they were learning in the classroom into actual practice in the real world. So I embedded in their coursework community engagement projects. Students left the USD bubble and challenged their comfort zones by venture into the Linda Vista community to bridge the so-called town gown divide and to reflect upon their own values and beliefs, challenge their assumptions, and encounter different perspectives. They followed me across international borders and worked on building projects in Tijuana and assisted deported migrant workers and detained youths. Students followed me to China to teach English in remote villages deep within the countryside and displayed the most incredible creativity and passion in their teaching in an absolute foreign setting. We spent spring break in Guatemala building school playgrounds and drinking fountains in indigenous villages accessible only by boat. When Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, students joined me to work in cleanup crews and create a long-term relationship with NOLA communities that exist to this day. I witnessed the tremendous growth of students who started as volunteers doing charitable work develop into allies and comrades, working side by side with community partners on a common project. An inherent part of service learning is the need to foster empathy towards other, which sadly, I must say, in today's world appears to be sorely lacking. Going to college occurs at a crucial time when students are undergoing tremendous developmental changes. They begin the process as first-year students whose brains are not fully formed, and they graduate as complex, aware adults. Consequently, some of my most memorable tales come from the first-year introductory courses taught in sociology. One standout comment from a course evaluation noted that the course was, quote, too demanding and, quote, too challenging because there was simply, quote, too much reading. The course, quote, should have been a graduate level course. She made us read the whole book. It was thick, but then there was the question in class following 9/11. Why is the military headquarters in Washington called the Pentagon? I responded that the name was based upon the shape of the building. But why is it called the Pentagon? Getting more technical, I said, it is called the Pentagon because of the shape of the building. The word penta derives from the Greek meaning 5 angles. Since it's a 5-pointed structure, it is called the Pentagon. It does not have any military meaning. Its name is simply based on the shape. Now, even more insistent, the question persisted, but why is it called the Pentagon? So, diving deeper into that rabbit hole, I pulled up a picture of the Pentagon and I said, a pentagon is a geometric shape with 5 sides and 5 angles. The military headquarters is housed in a pentagon, so it was named the Pentagon. But why? The student persisted. Finally, someone in the back of the room shouted, because somebody said so. That answer quelled the questioning. So it only goes to show that it was not my technical and increasingly academic explanation, but rather the straightforward student response was the solution, thereby proving Occam's razor, that when faced with competing explanations, the simplest answer is frequently the best one. Students come to college for different reasons. In one class, the first midterm was scheduled during the fourth week of class. In walked, late, a young woman who looked around and inquired out loud, "What's going on here?" I said, "It's the first midterm exam." Genuinely surprised, she stated, "But I've been out of town." When I asked her why she was surprised, because all of the relevant information about the course was printed in the syllabus, she replied, "I've been in Vail. I didn't have the syllabus. I didn't do the reading." Nevertheless, I informed her either to withdraw from the class or sit down and take the test. "I can't drop the class," she told everyone as she sat down to take the test. Following that day, she again was a no-show, and I had assumed that she had withdrawn from the class. But lo and behold, in the 10th week, in waltzes the same student late. And upon seeing the class engrossed in taking the second midterm exam, she puts her hands to her hips and exclaimed to the entire class, "Not again!" The whole class bursts into laughter. And someone from the back said, "Yes, again, sit down or leave." In many ways, it was the perfect storm and perfect timing, because that episode managed to entirely disrupt that typical test tension that always occurs when you're giving examen. And when the students left, save one, they left chuckling. And then there was my modern Chinese society course, where I was accused of, quote, never speaking English. While I am of Chinese descent, And I talked about the major political leaders of the time, Mao Zedong, Liu Xiaoqi, Deng Xiaoping, Zhou Enlai, and Zhu De. The class was actually taught in English. Despite this fact, Mao in Chinese or in English somehow became transformed into a popular American condiment when he was referred to as Chairman Mayo throughout one student's exam. But the winner in the contest between what I said and what was heard by students was a course paper I received, addressing why Deng Xiaoping was purged by Chairman Mao during the Cultural Revolution for taking the capitalist road. Deng was referred to as a capitalist roadster as opposed to a capital roader throughout the paper. This transitional oversight amusingly conjured up the priceless image of Deng Xiaoping sporting a little racing cap and wearing a scarf rakishly wrapped around his neck, driving that roadster down the capitalist road. These amusing anecdotes are another lesson. Have fun. Enjoy the interactions and don't take yourself so seriously. Having a sense of humor and being able to laugh at yourself and with students is one side of the teaching experience. The other side is that students will never cease to amaze you with their ingenuity, their creativity, and their energy. Faced with course projects and requirements, they can rise to the challenge with incredible resourcefulness and cleverness. To be told by students that they wanted to do well on exams because they did not want to disappoint you is the ultimate reward in teaching. And those are the positive moments you will never forget. Besides teaching, I also crossed over to the other side, administration. Perhaps I was fulfilling some sort of cosmic destiny because only the Chinese would answer the query, and what would you like to be when you grow up? With the response, a bureaucrat. In a weird twist of fate, I became just that when I was voluntold to be chair of the joint departments of anthropology and sociology after a mere 4 years at USD, and then chair of the Department of Sociology. Later, in the new millennium, came a series of interim chair positions. At 7:59 a.m., this is the God's honest truth, not hyperbole, on the first day of the spring semester 2010, I got a call from Dean Mary Boyd asking if I would immediately step in as interim chair of ethnic studies because the current chair was on sabbatical and all of the other faculty members in the department were too junior to assume the position. After all, I was an affiliated faculty in that department, and I was heavily involved in its creation. Thus, I was ready to die. That is, further the goals of diversity, inclusion, and equity that are the hallmarks of ethnic studies. While at ethnic studies, the chair of theater arts approached me to serve as interim while he was on sabbatical the following semester. When I protested, saying, I know nothing about theater, his response was, you don't need to know anything about theater. We have the people for that. What we need is an administrator. So how could a bureaucrat resist that. His logic was impeccable. Who better to assume the role of acting chair than a self-professed drama queen? Following my sabbatical, Dean Mary Boyd called me yet again in 2013 to serve as interim in theology and religious studies. Apparently, my immediate response was, "Oh my God, you have got to be kidding me," served as an obvious qualification due to my ability to effectively and appropriately invoke the deity. Playing musical chairs, as Tom Reiser mentioned, made me appreciate how necessary but thankless leadership positions can be. Yet it not only provided me with enormous responsibilities, it also provided me with a wider radar scope of the university. The first lesson I learned was, do not manage people. Manage the situation. Face-to-face interactions are essential in establishing faith and trust in your leadership skills. Each interaction is a potential teachable moment regarding what the Chinese refer to as face. You can have face. You can give face. You can lose face, or you can save face. A focus on the issues in a given situation allows you an opportunity to choose appropriately. I learned all about face from the master, my mother. As a child, whenever the family was out in public, if my brothers and I engaged in anything my mother considered inappropriate, she never yelled at us, she never raised a scene, she just gave us the look. And with that look, we immediately stopped whatever we were doing, looked at her, and then she would just very gently take her thumb and brush her cheek. Then we knew we were in for it. But she never yelled, she never think. So whatever we were doing, it stopped us dead in our tracks. And as we know, most meaning can be conveyed effectively by nonverbal as well as verbal cues. And my mom had a doctorate in the art of nonverbal communication. Second, focus on the process, not the product. Doing so is intrinsically more inclusive because it emphasizes the necessity of utilizing consensus building and valuing multiple perspectives if anything is ever going to be accomplished, and can be the means to build a good working relationship by creating connections, friendships, and even camaraderie. The importance of how we engage and treat one another is as important as achieving a desired goal. These qualities are the essence for building a community based upon trust. Third, do not act in haste, or as my husband always said, repent in leisure when confronted with angry emails or conversations. Instead, take things slow by slow, as my mother would say. Take some deep breaths, calm down, wait an appropriate time before responding. Then Dean Drinan suggested a 3-day hiatus before responding to challenging emails or voicemail messages. Throughout my career at USD, I was fortunate to work with every iteration of what is now known as the Mulvaney Center for Community, Awareness, and Social Action. Community residents are frequently characterized as the other, exotic, mysterious, and different. Working in the community then, and as I continue now, I have witnessed portraits in compassion, care, and concern. Senior luncheons at Bayside Community Center where elders beam with excitement for a meal that is frequently the only one they might have for the day. Waiting in line for a weekly food distribution, elders will shade one another with their sun umbrellas and each other during rain showers. Rummaging through their bags of groceries, they will share a favorite soft food with a toothless friend or hold a spot in line for a wheelchair-bound companion. Bounty from the community gardens located throughout Linda Vista is shared with pride and advice on how to use an ingredient. During recent perilous times of sudden ice raids, neighbors will pick up an extra bag of food for another resident, and Bayside staff will make home deliveries. These tiny acts of kindness, generosity, and sharing help residents survive harsh realities by creating strong communal bonds. Hard times are punctuated with moments of sheer joy and laughter. Seniors jumping up and out of their seats to join a karaoke session or dancing in the middle of the streets, celebrating holidays or seeing the beaming faces of children picking out a Christmas gift for themselves and for their siblings. We are all made stronger by being together. What I have learned from being in and out of the classroom, I would like to offer as an ABC primer of life lessons. A, find allies wherever you are. Create networks of meaningful relationships built upon trust with people who will provide truthful feedback, even when that feedback is difficult and painful to hear. Pay it forward by being an ally and mentor to others. Savor each moment that brings joy and laughter into your life, and know that you can comfort others with care, concern, and empathy. B, talk is cheap. Be conscious of your behavior. How we treat one another is, in the end, how we know whether we are building communities based upon trust. Put your words into practice by challenging and reflecting upon assumptions, values, and beliefs. C, maintain courage and commitment in all you do. At the end of the day, all we can ask of ourselves is, have I tried to do my best? With the help of allies to help reflect upon our actions, behaviors, and values, we can truly make a difference. Every day is a new day and an opportunity to learn. As such, we can never know it all, and the desire for lifelong learning makes us students and teachers throughout our existence on this planet. The impact of these lessons on the importance of finding allies and of being an ally, of behaving impeccably towards others, of collaborating of collaborating honestly with others and continuously teaching and learning in the classroom of life cannot be understated. I try to practice them each and every day. It's not always easy, but would that more people in this world try to live by them. Finally, I would like to thank all of you for coming out this evening, and to those former students who have sent lovely emails upon reading about this event. I am aware that there's always this underlying fear that when a speaker takes a podium, particularly an academic, you might be held hostage to a self-serving blowhard. I would like to conclude by saying that all of you here this evening have actually fulfilled another dream of mine. I've always wanted to be in a room with people who actually want to hear what I have to say. For that honor, I thank you.